Brian Levin. He is the director at the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism and a professor of criminal justice at the California State University in San Bernardino. Brian, thanks so much for joining us. First, let me ask you, how serious a problem you really think this is. We're getting some anecdotal evidence. We've heard about a few police reports, but a lot of this is spreading on social media, and people are really worried. Do you think there's a real issue here?
I do think there's a real issue. I think most of it, though, will be in ways that are a little bit more difficult to measure. Hate crimes do not come in real time, so we have a little bit of a lag time. But certainly we're getting anecdotal reports about discrimination and the promotion of ignorant theories online. So what I think we're going to see, if you look, there's something called like the pyramid of prejudice, and at the top is the most violent, things like genocide, and at the bottom are passive aggression, avoidance, and then a little up from that is discrimination. That's where I think we're going to see most of these kinds of incidents, particularly because if people feel that someone's transmitting a viral disease, they might be less likely to get into physical contact with them. Although we did see during the AIDS scare during the 1980s that in addition to passive types of avoidance and discrimination, there were also hate crimes against gay people, unfortunately.
I was going to ask you when you think we've seen this before, and you mentioned the rise of AIDS, especially in the 1980s, when there was so much ignorance about it. I think what's different today, though, is that with social media and the use of the internet, you talked about, the spread of fake news, basically. I'm not a fan of that term, but that's kind of what it is. It spreads so much faster, and it can cause so much kind of, misinformation to get out there that will spark, otherwise, somewhat uneducated people sometimes to act on that in racist and xenophobic ways.
Absolutely, and you made an excellent point, and thank you for doing so. With respect to prejudice, prejudice is an attitude, and attitudes consist of three parts. How we perceive the outside world, and that can be either experientially or even through news reports. Then how do we emotionally respond? And then how do we actually in the real world respond? And I think what we're also seeing is not just prejudice against Asian people, and indeed, their dietary and hygiene habits, but also we're seeing conspiracy theories from people here in the United States saying drink bleach, which is about the stupidest thing you could do to try and combat this virus.
So, need there be, some education campaigns from the onset of things like this to especially get kids in the loop, to help them understand that you don't bully, you don't discriminate, because of what you may have heard on the news and judge from there with the least information possible.
Absolutely. In this social media connected world, we're seeing lies go around the world a lot quicker. And there's actually research on this than actual truth. So what we want to do are a couple of things. One is get the best and latest information out there. And that's why I think, for instance, the stock market turned around a bit after there were official statements here in the United States and elsewhere. That being said, bottom line is, in a community, we have people who are school principals and sports coaches. We have to make sure that those folks are in the loop on this, but also our political and national leaders have to make sure that they're using the bully pulpit, not only to speak out against prejudice and discrimination, but also to promote facts and to not undermine the communal institutions of our various democracies.
Brian Levin, great to have you. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.